Hello everyone, welcome to another Random Talk Sunday, and today for this video I thought it would be cool to talk about Valentine's Day. Yes, Valentine's Day. Now in order to understand Valentine's Day we have to look a little bit at the history here. Valentine's Day actually revolves around, in particular the date of Valentine's Day, February 14th, revolves around two saints that were both have the names Valentine. Valentine of Rome, as well as Valentine of Turini. And they were both martyrs because they were Christian, I guess. So, yeah, this, I guess, was a time when uh, Rome was kind of going through that transitionary period where ultimately everybody would become pretty much Christian, but they still had paganism as a big part of Roman culture. So there was, I guess, a lot of fighting, and as a result, we've got a bunch of saints who end up becoming martyrs for the Christian religion, supposedly. Um, so February 14th really didn't have anything to do with romance. Um, where romance sort of comes in is kind of complicated because there were a lot of different people who sort of played sort of a role into converting it uh, into something for romance. Because in the Middle Ages, there was this one uh, person named Godfrey Chaucerez or Chaucer. I might be pronouncing that wrong. That might be French. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. It might be. I'm not sure. But basically, he ends up referencing Valentine's Day as a sort of uh, he basically uses love birds to describe uh, Valentine's Day. And I think he was initially doing this because of a wedding that was supposed to take place between a king and queen during that time. But as sort of a result, others started getting this whole idea of Valentine's Day being a sort of a symbol of love and romance. Also, there's, I think, a lot of paganism, sort of similar to how, Christmas was. If you really look down at the traditions, there was a lot of pagan rituals that we do celebrate to this day, pretty much, that were incorporated as part of Christianity. And I think Valentine's Day probably sort of did the same thing because they did have sort of gifts that they would lay out and have feasts and things like that. And usually that was supposed to be sort of to celebrate the coming of spring, which makes sense because February really is the last month of spring. And so that was also sort of another part of what was incorporated into Valentine's Day. But it eventually just became something else where people would hand out, cards and treats and, gifts of affection and things of that nature. And that's what we ultimately consider Valentine's Day today. Usually nothing to do with the saints, although they are, I guess, technically celebrated on that day still by the Christian religions. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the understanding though that we have of Valentine's Day, um, and how it ultimately ended up changing. Um, because it was more initially it was more about martyrdom and sacrifice as opposed to romantic love, but then it sort of shifted. Also, again, there was a lot of little things that were sort of part of paganism that were kind of incorporated into the Christian religion and even into the saints themselves. For example, Cupid, um, was I believe it was some kind of something that one of the Valentines wore that had a Cupid on it, and that um, is often associated with romantic love. So I think what really ended up happening with Valentine's Day is that we had this mixture of cultures, but it's a lot more or less distinct than something like Christmas, where we can say, yeah, that was a pagan culture, that was a pagan tradition, that was incorporated in, or yeah, that was something that was part of the Christian tradition or whatnot. Um, the only clear thing that remains true is the Valentine, the name Valentine's Day, um, was part of the sort of Christian religion in the sense of there being two Valentines that were saints, but ultimately, as far as the details go, when it comes to chocolates and festivals or anything of that nature, that I think is more emphasized through pagan culture and pagan traditions, and there was, I think, a lot more of an emphasis within pagan culture when it comes to fertility and love. I mean, heck, they even have a goddess for love. Aphrodite, or Venus as sometimes she's called, from the Roman tradition, I believe. So yeah, there was a lot of things that I think ended up happening to Valentine's Day that made it a little bit more of a pagan kind of holiday than really a Christian holiday, even though it sort of started off that way with the saints being martyred. But yeah, that's really in essence the history of Valentine's Day. It's a little complicated. It's a little strange. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but there's just a lot of things that just ended up shifting, and as a result, we get Valentine's Day as what we know, which is supposed to be more centered around romance, around love, and things like that, as opposed to sacrifice, martyrdom, things like that, the Christian and other Christian traditions. So that's really, in essence, the history of Valentine's Day. But also, I wanted to talk about in this video is the good that I find in Valentine's Day and the bad. There are, I think, pros and cons with Valentine's Day. I'm not one of those people who's a diehard hater of Valentine's Day. I'm not one of those people who goes around and gets angry just because there are other people that are, in love or whatnot. I think that's stupid to get mad over. And and it's more important that you learn to spread the love, and that's what ultimately will allow you to end up finding love, if you're just more, if you just keep going on living your life, and eventually love will find you. So yeah, so ultimately there is some, I think, good aspects to Valentine's Day. I like the idea of giving people gifts of whether it be cards, whether it be chocolates, whether it be whatever. I think it's nice to give gifts and to receive gifts from other people. And Valentine's Day is one of those days where you can do that. And give each other cards. I remember when I was little, we would always have like these different cards of like popular movies or TV shows at the time, and we would hand them out to people in class, when I was little. I remember those, and I remember liking to, or I just remember that I enjoyed doing that. Just spreading around some cards to everybody and giving people candy. That's always nice for kids. So it has something, I think, a little bit for everybody. At least I think more so I think more so within the United States probably than within other countries. But I just remember within the United States, even at a young age, people were exposed to Valentine's Day pretty heavily. Also, again, the receiving of gifts is so nice. It's nice to get flowers. It's nice to get chocolate. It's nice to get cute little teddy bears, and it's a nice feeling to spread the love, so to speak. I think that's nice, and it's nice that we have a holiday sort of dedicated to that. I mean, it's sort of important, I mean, I don't understand why people don't think that it's important. I mean, and again, I will get into sort of the negatives, but again, I think we should, emphasize the love all year round. But at the same time, it's nice to have these little reminders. It's the same with Christmas. It's a reminder to, celebrate, be peaceful, and be happy and be thankful. And Valentine's Day is about sort of spreading the love, remembering the love for one another, and all that. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of positive things really about the holiday. I don't think it's trying to be so insulting. I just think it's what people turn it into that's ultimately, I think, what leads to a lot of the problems that I have with Valentine's Day. It has become very consumeristic. It's crazy. I just went inside a store today, and the balloons that they had for Valentine's Day, there were just so many balloons. They were covering the entire ceiling pretty much. Like this whole section for Valentine's Day, it was covering the entire ceiling with balloons. And they had the little strings attached to them, and it was so hard to get around the strings because there were so many balloons like up on the ceiling. So yeah, I think that's that's kind of an annoyance. And it's probably annoying seeing tons and tons of different things that you should go and buy for your significant other, and and I think it's really dumb too when they tell you to go buy this really expensive piece of jewelry, or or do something so really over the top, for Valentine's Day. I'm more of the simpleton in that I think the simple things are actually the things that really matter the most. So this whole over consumeristic understanding of Valentine's Day, I think, is one of the biggest things that I think most people complain about, and is one that I share wholehearted agreement with. Um, and another thing that I think um, is sort of part of the over-consumerism of it is the fact that people seem to go all out into it when they really don't need to, you know, be so big and grandeur. I remember in high school where there were people who got these, like, I mean, these teddy bears were probably like half as tall as me. Like, they were just these gigantic things that the kids would carry to give to their significant others. And I'm thinking, this is high school. Like, this is high school. Like, out of all things, would you literally think about getting a huge, gigantic teddy bear? It's and then all the balloons, like giving tons and tons of balloons, just like to, just and just attaching them with the teddy bear. It's just too much. I mean, there was just so much emphasis I felt on it. And I thought it was ridiculous how they felt like we have to go all out and buy all this stuff. It's like, you're in high school, come on. So yeah, I thought that was just really strange, and it was just so in your face that that it makes you feel overwhelmed, and that maybe when you want to give something to somebody and it's not as big or as outlandish, you feel kind of awkward. So I think going simple on Valentine's Day is good. But I totally understand if some people want to make the Valentine's Day their engagement day. I'm totally fine with that. That's not a problem. And I understand if you go a little bit more all out on that. But at the same time, just getting these huge, gigantic things that really don't amount much to anything, uh, again, I think is just demeaning the purpose of the holiday. Um, and I think there's also this emphasis on making such a huge deal about it, like it's this big, grandiose thing. And to be honest, it's just a simple holiday. I mean, we don't even have the day off on Valentine's Day. So it's not that big of a holiday to where people even get the day off. So yeah, I think there's just some part of our culture that really thinks it really makes it out to be some big deal, when it's really not a big deal. It's just supposed to be a nice time of spending time with people who you love and spreading the love around. That's really all that it's about, and I don't think people should try to make more or less out of that. So, yeah, that's just kind of the way I see things. Just the simple things say I think the most. Um, but yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say when it comes to Valentine's Day. It's an interesting holiday. It's one of those holidays where, I understand the annoyance factor of it. I also understand the enjoyment people can get out of it. And at the same time, I feel like that it's just one of those, yay, it's a nice holiday. But it's nothing to, I think, go crazy over. Even Christmas, too. I mean, yeah, it comes once a year, but it's nice to have, it's not, Christmas is nice, but, you don't need to go all out and, put, these gigantic, balloon shaped uh, air filled snowmen and stuff on your lawn. You just don't need to make a big deal out of it, which is I think what some people like to do with these holidays. And yeah, this just does not just go for Valentine's Day. So but yeah, I'm just more of a simpleton, so I enjoy the holiday. There are things that I like about it. There's things that I don't like about it, but at the same time, it's here to stay, and it's here to be a part of our culture. So might as well get used to it. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say about this topic. But again, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.